So we're here today with Doug Schneider, founder of the Soundstage Network, a global conglomerate of audio publications online. I guess I can call it that.
Yeah.
Covering everything from equipment reviews, industry news, show reports. They have a division in Australia now. And I just thought it would be interesting for our viewers to get a little insight on how somebody reviewing audio equipment professionally, how you actually go about in the terms of a loudspeaker. How do you review it? How do you start the process of something that you haven't listened to before?
Yeah, so you're wondering how it's set up, that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a listening room that's on the whole extremely large. It's about 16 feet wide by 36 feet long, but only the front half is used for listening. So it's got a big wide open space behind me. And it's consistent. So there's a general spot, regardless of the speaker comes in, big or small, it gets set up in the same general position in the room. I don't try to say, oh, it's a small speaker, I'll put it really close to the front wall. It's a large speaker, I'll move it way out. I'll put them all generally in the same position.
Right.
And then that's where I'll start. And it forms in that 16 by 18 foot space. It's usually about 8 feet wide. And then my distance is about, or 9 feet wide, and my distance is about 9 feet away from each speaker. So it's a consistent setup, and it puts them quite far away from the walls.
Right.
There's about 4 to 5 feet from each speaker to the sidewalls, and then about 7 feet behind the speakers. So that can be a little unfair to small speakers.
Right.
But on the other hand, a lot of small speakers do well in that space. And then it's optimal for floor standing speakers, which is what I do mostly anyway. And so that's where I start, and I put them there, and then I might tweak a little bit with the positioning. But generally, they all stay in that same general position in the room.
And if you're, as the review progresses and you're doing more listening, do you keep tweaking, or do you do some initial adjustments where you think you've got it most of the way there, and then you leave it alone from that point?
Most of the speakers I review have good dispersion characteristics, so it's doesn't require a lot of tweaking. If anything, maybe a little closer together, maybe a little wider, maybe a little toe in, maybe a little less, but generally not that much.
Right.
And I usually settle a lot on the same thing, about 10, 15 degrees of toe in, so a little bit. And then, not that much tweaking.
Right. And when you start the process, do you just listen to the speaker, at first before you start, trying to listen for specific details like imaging, soundstage, overall balance, distortions, things of that matter?
Yeah. Where I work is actually my listening chair. So literally I have a laptop on my lap. And so what I'll do is I'll just set a pair of speakers up. And as I'm working, I'll just listen to them in the background for the longest time. And that could be a few weeks. And now over that time, I might not be writing up that review, but I'll just be listening, and things will come into my head and that sort of thing. And then after 2-3 weeks of just playing them like that, then I'll actually start seriously listening to stuff. But a lot of times you kind of gather up a lot of thoughts, just listening to them, and you notice certain things, and then you go, okay, jot that down, and then come back to it. And then after a couple weeks, start writing up the review.
Right. So you live with them for a bit.
Live with them a bit in that spot.
Right. Good. And music, wide variety of music. Do you listen to stuff that you like, or specific, audiophile approved things, or things that you can pick apart different aspects of a loudspeaker to really, nail down its performance, or do you just play whatever is in musical rotation in your house at that time?
All of it. I wouldn't say a lot of it's audiophile approved in the sense of I have no real audiophile recordings, but a lot of them should be audiophile approved because they do have those qualities.
Right.
I'll try to change up the music, and I'll listen to just a bunch of stuff in that 2-3 weeks where, because if you write a review with a lot of guys use the same music all the time, and A, that gets boring, but B, it can just repeat the same things and also not reveal some other things. Like I remember one speaker I was listening to at a place, it suddenly developed a buzz when we put a different track on that they never listened to. They listened to the same 5 tracks. They never kind of excited a problem in the speaker
Right.
that suddenly something different did. So you try a wide variety of stuff.
Right.
But then you got to go back to the stuff you know really well.
Right.
Because there is a consistency then. So it's, I would say 60% of the stuff you know really well, years and years and years and years. And then 30, 40%, depending, you know,
Right.
newer stuff
Mhm.
that you are then adding.
Right.
And it might end up being in that
Right.
stuff you know really well rotation.
So, final question, and it's a little bit of a controversial one. I thought I'd throw this in without any heads up. So, do you start tweaking a speaker if you find that, you know, there's some flaws or things you don't like? And by that I mean changing cables, changing feet. Oh, let's try another amplifier because, you know, this one, you know, we're going to blame it on something else other than the speaker. I think you know where I'm going.
Yeah. No, for the most part. So you've got a solid state amplifier, say, of decent enough power.
Right.
You know, so it's not clipping, nothing. And a speaker, it should perform well with that.
Right.
Okay. So if it doesn't, there's probably a problem with the speaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a couple solid state amplifiers that I'll use. Plenty powerful enough, no problems with their sound, nothing. What I might do is, let's say a speaker is sensitive, you know, meaning it plays loud with not much power. I've got a few tube amps. I
Right.
might say, okay, this might be able to drive it with a tube amp of limited power, not as load friendly. Let's see how it works with that as
Right.
well. But I'll use as a basis a good, powerful, solid state amplifier. And you won't stray from that. And I won't ever, if a speaker can't play well like that, it's probably not very good.
Right.
If suddenly you find some magical combination with some specific amplifier, it's probably an anomaly in the speaker.
Right.
And it means then it'd be tough to recommend to somebody because if they just need to match it with this and that. And there might be some quirky speakers out there, maybe electrostatics or something like that. But a dynamic speaker and stuff should work well.
Should work.
What do you
Great.
think about that?
I agree 100% with that, mainly because if you use a decent solid state amplifier that can handle low impedance loads and phase shift swings in the impedance, you know, it should really perform well with any speaker. And what I don't like, you mentioned tube amps, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I think people need to understand that a tube amp, depending on the loudspeaker, acts more as a tone control in many cases in altering the frequency response. So I hear comments all the times from reviewers and just, you know, speaker owners that say, well, I tried this on my solid state amp and it sounded really harsh and, you know, took my head off. But I tried a little tube amp I have and now it sounds smooth and glorious. Now, if it's making that big a change, it's probably not the amplifier itself or the distortion characteristics. It's most likely how it's altering the frequency response. Of the speaker.
Yeah, it probably has a hot treble or something like
Right,
that
right.
needs taming down.
And I'm not, and I don't want to be too critical here, but reviewers that you know, essentially rebuild the whole system around the speaker that they're reviewing. I mean, I don't understand the point of that because you as a customer are probably not going to do that. I mean, some people do, and hey, you know, more power to you, but I certainly don't want to rebuild my whole system to try and make a speaker that probably is compromised in some way, you know, sound better by rebuilding everything. So
Yeah. Now, one thing I will say in this, where we're sitting right now, one thing I've noticed that can be affected, and let's see what you think, is like, this is what's under this floor. It's wood,
Yeah.
right? It's not concrete.
Right.
And sometimes, depending where it is in my room, I can get suckouts or additions to the bass. But sometimes some speakers will excite the floor.
right,
Kind of, you can hear kind of the floor is getting excited because it is a sprung wood floor. It's not a concrete floor and that sort of thing. So I will maybe look at the spikes the thing's sitting on, or should it be sitting directly on the carpet, or have you done anything like that? Kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
looked into how the floor itself affects the bass response?
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it starts with basic things like if you have hardwood or tile flooring, you know, I always recommend to customers to put, if they can, throw a little area rug in front of the space of the speakers just to deal with that hard first reflection that can sometimes be, you know, problematic. You know, in terms of spikes, rubber feet, all those sorts of things, that's a play with it and see. And I agree with you. If you find that you're getting a ton of vibration in the floor, there's then a lot of energy from the speaker going into the floor that some of it now is not coming out of the speaker and generating sound. It's just vibration vibrating the floor. So if you can cut that down by changing the type of foot, I get it. You know, but some of these tweaks where, you know, it's a particular material of spike, like I don't buy into that personally. But again, you know, if that's floats your boat, go ahead.
Yeah. I'll add one more thing, because some people could criticize that I set the speakers up in the same way, but it's a far distance from the wall, all the walls. So you hear more about what the speaker's doing
Right.
than what the room is doing.
Yeah, so you're pulling more of the room out of the equation. Which
More
is,
of it, not all of it,
Right.
but more of it.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Doug. Appreciate it, and thanks
you.
for watching.
Thank you.